What episode?
21.
21. Okay. I mean, we haven't told anybody about 20 yet, but
Is this recording?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we're
perfect.
recording.
Okay, here we go. Ready?
I'm doing this because I had ribs for lunch. We need the warm up in the beginning. Oh, yeah, the coffee is kicking in.
Oh, great. All right, here we go.
Oh, my!
This is Wide Open with Chris Burandt.
And we're live.
We are live.
All right, what's up, everybody? Wide Open with Chris Burandt. That's me.
I'm Ryan McConnell.
I'm Ryan McConnell. I got Ryan McConnell and Bubba Sellers. Those of you who keep asking where the hell Kyle is, he's coming.
He's on his way, basically.
Next week we get to get Kyle back. So can't wait for some fun with that dude. We miss him. So let's jump into this. As you guys can see, we got my elk from this year for you guys watching on YouTube. For those of you who are tuning in on Spotify and iTunes, finally, thanks, Bubba. Good job.
Bubba.
Almost fired him. We are, so check us out on YouTube. You can see the rack from my bull this year. So that's what obviously what we're going to talk about. Episode 20, we dove into hunting, and we were going to get to the story of this year's bull because, again, a lot of you guys asked for, dude, you're a hunter? That's sweet. What's up?
Tell us more.
Tell us more. Yeah. And so that we didn't get that far. So let's we're gonna get going quickly here because I'm long-winded, especially when it comes to the elk. All right. But so a recap of podcast number 20 and how all of us can relate hunting to snowmobiling. Most of you guys are tuning in because you're snowmobilers and you love learning about snowmobiling and stuff. And so one of the things that really makes me love hunting is it is a lot like snowmobiling for me in many ways, both physically, mentally. We talked about that, the challenges of what hunting brings to the table from the standpoint of, having to be physically prepared to hike around in the mountains chasing these beautiful bull elk, and then from the mental standpoint. And so again, how I tie all of that in to the snowmobile side of things.
I think the biggest thing that stood out for me when you were talking about that was the lines that you choose related to how you hike through the mountains to get to the...
They're identical. Literally
I never
identical.
really thought about that. I wanted to post a bunch on some of your recent posts about, were you just following the elk there?
And
Is that how you made it?
Yep. And
I see the tricks.
Yeah. And I think it's funny, the first 3 days Bubba was here, I got a call from a buddy who got a bull, and we went and packed it out. And, he literally sent me a pin on a map, and he said,
Way up there.
good, I hope you can come find me. And I'm like, en route, here we go. And I drug you guys along, and it's funny, like, when I was walking through that nasty stuff, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, these guys right behind me, they're getting a taste.
Snowmobiling.
They're getting a taste already of what it's going to be like to follow me on a snowmobile. And sure enough, once you finally got to me 15 minutes later, you were like, I don't know about that line choice. I'm like, that's not the first time I've heard that.
Probably not the last time.
Probably not the last. All right, so let's talk. Let's chat. So, this year, my archery bull, and it's funny. I think the biggest thing I took away from this year was mentally, I told myself, because it was like winding down. I had 2 days left of the season. I hadn't really got to hunt. I was doing a lot of guiding. I kind of told myself, I don't think this is going to happen this year. And that's what's funny about...
Those aren't words I hear from you.
I know. And because it's... And just like, again, I actually listened to the podcast, the one we did last 20. I listened to it again just to kind of get me prepared for what we need to talk about here. And it's all I kept thinking about was like, it's so hard. Like it's really hard. And so, again, I only had 2 or 3 days left to get the deal done. And I'm like, man, this is going to be really, really hard. And there had been a lot of things that stacked up that from a mental standpoint made me think that it was that I wasn't going to be able to get it done. So guiding wise, as a guide for hunting, your job is to try to provide as many opportunities to your hunter as possible. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I guided two people, and the first one I had Rihanna from Mountain Ops, and she had a tough go. She had some bow troubles. She ended up missing 3 times. And that's like, she's probably never missed. She's a really good shooter. Mm-hmm. And she's probably never missed 3 times, like ever, on a target or whatever, but had some bow troubles. And so, from a guide standpoint, man, that is tough, right? Like,
takes you down a notch, doesn't it?
Man, I'm doing my job. Mm-hmm. We're getting opportunities, and when it doesn't happen, it's like it deflates you, and then so fast forward to my next shooter had another miss, at close range, and it's like, and so I have all of these things in my head, like, oh my gosh, this is, again, to the point of, this is really hard. And
how many people did you have?
I had Rihanna and Bo, so I had 2. Oh. Yeah. And so with that, so here I am, like I get my day, right? Or my days, my few days to get out and go, and
on your own,
on my own. Yep. And so what, again, like I was telling you guys, one of the things that's very enjoyable for me, or the most enjoyable part, in bow hunting, and you set me up with this question, is like, so what's your favorite part? What's your favorite part? Is it full draw? Is it, all of that stuff? Mm-hmm. And for me, it's to hear an elk bugle, which tells me I have an opportunity, and
and you set yourself up to get there.
Yeah. Right. And so so here we go. Let's talk about the day. It was a cool, crisp morning. Actually, it was windy as hell, which the wind is your worst enemy when bow hunting. It's absolutely the worst. When you can play the wind right and you have it in your favor, it is your best friend. When it's not in your favor, you are going to lose. And that's how my morning started out. So I ended up going to a spot. Oddly enough, it was a spot where I didn't really want to go there, but it's funny how I'm thinking about all of this while I'm talking. I didn't really want to go there, but I was running a little late that morning, and it was a little closer, and so I'm like, okay, I'll just go to this spot. And ironically, it was where I shot my bull the last year. Okay, so I go in there, and I get up on this ridge and kind of do the same walk every time to get in there, hoping that the wind is going to be in my favor. And I get up there, and the wind is just junk. I mean, it's just swirling, and it's blowing everywhere. And so ended up, though, when I get up on this ridge, the elk are, they're going crazy below me, and I can hear them, and I actually can see them. And I'm like, well, because again, I've been to this spot enough to know they were in the bottom. And like we talked about last podcast, when the elk are in the bottom, they're feeding up, and they're going to where they're going to bed for the day. And so you're trying to put yourself in the middle of that to hopefully have them come walk right by you. And the problem with the walk right by you is I'm not patient enough to just stand in one spot for that long. So normally I blow it. Okay. So I'm up on this ridge, the elk are below me, and I can actually see them. I can't really see the bulls, but I can hear them. I see the cows. And so the cows are always first. To backtrack just a little bit, you guys remember I'm hunting, Bear Mountain Ranch. So again, the misconception when you're hunting private, they're all just tied up on a.
We just walk out your door, right?
You're guaranteed to get one. They're on a leash. They're just waiting for you to come by.
I think I'll take that one too.
Yeah, and I made this statement in the last podcast, and I was thinking about it, and like, guys not feeling sympathy for me with this statement of, when there's a lot of elk, it makes it hard, even harder. And that's the one thing that that Bear Mountain has, is it has these, pretty big herds. And what big herds mean is more eyes, more noses, more opportunities to get busted. And I was thinking about this, again, I had hunted public land for 15 plus years. And that made me love bow hunting and made me, what I was as a bow hunter. But until I started hunting or having the opportunity to hunt and guide at Bear Mountain, that's what made me a good bow hunter. And the reason is because it allowed me to have more opportunities to get busted and to lose and to understand and know what I need to do better the next time. And so all of those types of experiences were what happened on this hunt and why it all came together. And again, I'm getting there. Okay. So let's recap. Let's regroup. And so I'm up on this ridge. I got elk below me. The wind is swirling. I'm not in this. It's not super ideal, but I'm trying to hope that the wind is going to work for me. And so, I had multiple times where the cows came below me and didn't really detect me. And I could hear these bulls, but it was really thick cover below where they were. I was fortunate enough to know, because I shot a bull down in there the previous year, I knew what it looked like down there. And what was driving me crazy was the elk were kind of hung up where I ended up shooting the one last year, and they're hung up down there. And all I kept thinking was man, if I was just right down there, and maybe I can sneak down there. And I did this 4 times. I'd peel off of the ridge. And I'm like, okay, the wind is good. And I'm peeling down. I'm starting to walk. And it would switch. And I'm like, gosh, dang it. I got to get it. And the cows are right there. And I'm like, I am going to blow this. And I did that literally 4 times, trying to sneak in there, but it's loud. And, it's loud up on the ridge because it's windy. But when you get down in the trees, then it's quiet. And so when you're trying to walk in the crunch and all that stuff, and that's why, you need the elk to walk by you, or you need to be able to call them in. But that is the other problem that I can't do there is calling doesn't work. Calling doesn't work because there are already elk there, and they're already making the noise. So if you call in this particular instance, all you're doing is alerting them that something is
something's wrong.
Hey,
something's close.
Who's that dude? We don't know that dude. We don't like that dude.
That's not right.
And so there's a lot of the spot and stalk type of things, and that's how I've had the luck with filling a tag there, is literally letting the elk do the work, me playing the wind right, and trying to get into that position.
Would you say that the advantage that you as a hunter can have out in the wild is knowing the terrain and territory and the wind directions and the typical, where they go each day, where they bed? I mean,
100%.
So for you, do you feel like that gives you, because they have the kind of, as you said, the power and the numbers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the senses that you don't have. And that's their advantage. But you have the advantage of, I've been hunting here for 10 years?
Yeah, I've been at Bear Mountain for 4 years now. Yep. But 4 years, and it's the same, again, elk are pattern
creatures, right?
They can be. And they have these places that they like to be, and this is one of them. And so that's why I'm hunting there. But just to your point, and again, you guys are gonna hear a lot in this podcast of me referring snowmobiling to elk, and that's one of the things on the snowmobile side of things that I ride my area every day, and so I call it home court advantage, right? I mean, I know what tree I need to go above or below. I know what little spot I can gain momentum.
There's a cliff here, and you got to stay low to go around.
That's right, and so that's what I love about riding with my guys, or so either my clients or especially thinking about Kyle and Ross and San and all those guys who were rippers and really wanted to they want to beat me, right?
Every day.
I love when they're like, oh yeah, I'm above Burandt.
Yeah.
And then why is he down there? And then here I go, because I knew, like, here's the shelf, here's where I'm gonna get momentum, and when they're above me, they run into the steep part and they can't turn up, and I'm
that's
peace
a
out.
common failure.
It is.
Yeah. We used to joke with Chase about that even.
Yeah.
Because he's ripping, and then I got Chris. Next thing you know, there you go.
I don't have Chris.
I don't have Chris.
Okay, so we're back.
Okay, we got sidetracked.
Okay.
But my thinking and listening to it all, not as a hunter, but just trying to understand kind of the landscape that you've laid out, and just thinking about it on the outside perspective, like, yeah, you've got a little bit of advantage, but that's the way it really should be if you're an avid hunter, right? You get to know your areas.
Yeah.
It's part of the scene.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just fall in blind to an area. Your chances, probably significantly less, right?
Yeah, and that's,
unless you luck out.
and that's what we talked about this in the last one. Kyle was wondering. He was coming out. He's getting addicted to the bow hunting deal, and he asked me, "Hey, where should I go?"
Yeah.
And I could literally put 2 points on a map and say, "Hey, they're gonna probably be around here and here."
Yep.
And I asked him, like, "So how did that go?" He's like, "That was
way better, right?
I owe you for that."
And I remember in previous seasons, because he's hunted out here a few times.
2 years.
Kind of a little bit frustrated and got some good, nature time, but wasn't seeing things.
Yeah, taking a walk with his bow.
Yeah, taking a walk.
Yeah, which happens a lot in bow hunting. But so to your point, I mean, knowing whether it's snowmobiling or elk hunting, knowing the terrain, knowing the landscape is really important. And so now we're back. You've got the picture. I'm up on this ridge. It's windy. Elk are below me. I'm waiting for the thermals to switch. Like right now, the air is going down because it's early in the morning and the thermal of the wind is going down. And as the morning progresses, that sun comes up, it switches the thermals and the thermals come up. And when the thermals are coming up, that's when you have the advantage. However, there's this it's the timing of all of that, because the elk know this. And so as they're coming up while the wind is going down, they have the advantage, right? So the problem is when you're, okay, so like I shouldn't be above them in the morning because the wind is going down. However, if you're below them, they're feeding up, and trying to keep up with an elk going uphill is really hard, right? And even when they're feeding and they're doing their deal, like, so it's a really tough balance. So, I'm trying to be kind of to the side of them, so my wind is, because I know my wind is going down, but
not directly to them, though.
Not directly to them. The problem is, especially with this area, is it funnels down into this draw. And so, like, as I described, I mean, multiple times the wind was good, and then I would feel it on my back, and I'm like, oh, I'm screwed. And luckily, it was down in the valley. It was not enough to bust them yet. Okay. So the morning is still progressing. I still can't see the bulls, but they're right there. Like, I should be able to see them. They're bugling. They're in the trees. And I'm like, this is where your heart is starting to, like, okay. Like, I mean, I have an arrow knocked, and it's funny because, like, you've been standing there playing the wind, and that wind in the morning is just, it's freezing. Like, I'm cold. My hands are numb.
Not moving.
Yeah, you're not moving. You're like trying to stay still. You're glassing, and the elk are on alert. So you can't just, like, take your backpack off, do a zipper, get another layer on. But you hiked in the morning, so then you're a little warm, and then you sit in the wind, and then you're freezing cold. And so it's just like, all of these things are happening. And so, my next play is, I'm waiting for these thermals, but it's just the wind it's screwing me. Okay.
You start to lose patience.
I'm losing patience, and I kind of make a move. I'm like, man, I know where that bull is because I've been down in there. I'm going to try to make a move and go around. So I sneak back out, go up back over the ridge on the backside. And I've backed out. And now I'm going to try to sneak around and go back in. And as soon as I get back on the other side of the ridge, I'm good. I've got good wind. And I creep up and I go down the ridge and I peek over there to where I think I can kind of sneak down in, and sure enough, that wind, like I literally go over the ridge and the wind is just right at my neck, and there's a small little herd of cows down there, and it's the worst. We talk about the crash, but before the crash is the one cow that's feeding, and she goes like this.
What?
Pins you.
And you're
just eye to eye.
and then you sit still and you're just like 5, 4, 3, 2, and then it takes one of, and that's what I'm saying. Like, when you have a small herd, you have a better chance. But there was probably 70 cows in this group, and they're all just littered through these really thick aspens and pines, and so here comes the crash. Like, I'm like, and then the sigh and the head drop and the like, so again, like, I'm like, well, I screwed that up, and the one thing is they didn't bust hard. So so we talked about a disadvantage of having 70 cows, right? Mm-hmm. But here's the thing is they were so spread out that like the one cow said, something's not right, I'm out, right? And then so the other ones say, okay, she's out, so we should probably be out too. And so they kind of trot. But all the other ones are like, well, what happened to them? Yeah. What's going on? So it wasn't like they exited the county, which that's the tough thing with a small herd on public land is when they bust.
You bust one?
They are like miles. They can be miles. And that's what's so goods and bads, right? And so in this particular instance, so they bust. And so I'm like, okay, well, they didn't bust bad. Now here's my opportunity to get down where I needed to be. I needed to be there in the first place, but I couldn't get there because the wind wasn't right. And so, it's a chess match. Like, so then as I'm walking down there, I'm thinking already, what should I have done that morning? I probably should have come in from the side. I could have snuck in. I could have been literally in the herd with the wind right. But I came in from the top. The wind is normally in my favor up there, but it wasn't that morning. Yeah. So, and again, one of my favorite things from the last podcast that I chuckled at again was I know where the elk are. I know where they're going, and I still can't kill them.
Yep.
And I love that. I freaking love that about elk hunting.
That's part of it.
It is. Okay. So now they've kind of busted, and now instead of going up to the dark timber where I knew they were going to go bed, now they're going to skirt around the hill and go to a different spot. Kind of know the general direction they're going to go now too. Okay. So now I'm like, and it's getting to that point of the day, like they're done bugling. They're wanting to get into their safe place and chill out for the day. And so now this is where there's two ways to look at this. You either back out and let them settle and go do their deal, right? Like let them because then you have a really good chance of getting them either that night or the next morning. But I got 3 days left to hunt, and I need to make a play, and that's it's a really hard decision. Like if it was earlier in the season, I probably just would have let them go, and I would have let them go do their thing, and so they would hopefully be around that same area in the evening, giving me another opportunity. So, but I'm like, nope, I got to go. So I drop down in there, and then again, when you're in there, like. It reeks of elk, and you're literally walking by where they just were, and it's like so frustrating, right? I mean, literally, like, oh yeah, like, I mean, they were right here, they were right here, and I'm like stepping on their track where an elk just was, and so I go in there, and I'm like, okay, and the wind was doing something completely different. Up on the ridge, it was a disaster. Down in there, it was consistent where like it should be, but it was kind of loud walking. So I'm like, all right, I need to just stay even with them, and I need to go into attack mode. And so this is where, like, I've got my backpack, I got my bow, and I'm on a trot. I am now running through the woods, to not lose them.
Mm-hmm.
They are. It's been a little bit long enough, so they're off of alert now. I mean, they're not like, bolting to the next county.
Yeah.
They're not like bedding down, but at the same time, they're in a position where I can do something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so like I'm trying to catch up to them, and then as I'm sneaking through there, I hear a couple bugles. I'm like, okay, so they're right up there. I can make my play, right? Those are those little clues that I have to have and I need to have. And so here's what happened. I catch up to the end of the herd. And what's awesome about, and this is what always happens to me, when you catch up to the end of the herd, all you're doing is hunting butts, right? And you can never, you can't. They're moving, and so that's why you always try to get in front of them, right?
Yeah.
But
that paints a picture.
But the bull is most of the time in the back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so that's to your advantage in a way.
It
right?
is, except
his butt's in your.
He's out of reach.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I know this, and I know that, and so this is why I'm like, I got to get even with them, and I got to get a little below, and I need to literally go through the herd.
So if you got a herd here and you're behind them,
Yeah.
butts in your face, so to
Yes.
speak, you got to get
get
the
ahead.
side. Or
to
side or ahead.
Exactly. Right? And so here's what happened on this one is, so I literally, because this was a big herd of elk. I see what's, the elk, and they're moving towards where they're going to bed. And I just keep running, and I go through, and I hear some.
I can imagine you just.
Because I'm reading the train, analyzing what and where I need, if I can get to here and I'm in the middle, then I have an opportunity to
strike, right?
Yeah. To get a shot potentially. Yep. And so I'm running through the herd, busting some cows, but knowing, hoping that it doesn't bust the whole herd. And so I get to this position, and now the herd's pretty anxious, right? What is going on here? This gangly, goofy dude running around.
Seen you before.
Yeah. And so the herd busts. And for some reason, the herd busts, and they go up over the hill, and two satellite bulls and then the herd bull end up circling back around. So
below you?
Below me, exactly. So they go below me. And
what are you thinking here?
And so the two satellites bail, and then the big bull follows them. And I'm like my heart just went from I'm hoping I have an opportunity to oh my God, it's getting close. And so here's what happened, unfortunately, was they're on alert. And so they're not just, feeding, and I mean, they're kind of trotting around looking what to do. But these two satellites walked by a spot that I could potentially get a shot. But all of this is happening so much. I mean, so here's the other thing.
It's all probably happening very quickly, right?
I have no time to range.
They bust, they go, and you're like, yep, I'm right in the middle of this. What do I do?
Yeah. Normally, you're set up, you've ranged trees, so you know how far the shot is and all of this stuff. And so you're a little more prepared for what's about to happen. That is all so far out the window right now. I'm literally running, trying to knock an arrow while I'm walking and sneaking. I'm kind of caught out in the open, but they're right on the tree line. And I see this spot where they come broadside at me. And I'm like, oh, dude, the bull is going to follow the two satellites, the big bull. And that was the other thing. It was at that point, I wanted to put something on the ground. I wanted some meat. Mm-hmm. And yes, I like to shoot a big mature bull. But at this point, it's I'm putting something down, and I'm having tenderloins with my daughter. And so the 2 5 points are, I'm like, they're kind of small. And then I see the one, and I kind of got a glimpse of his rack. And I'm like, he's bigger than the two, right? So I'm like, that's the one I'm going to try for. And those two satellites, they stopped broadside, but I'm still focused on the bigger bull. And the bigger bull, he literally, so I draw, and he comes and stop, and he's walking, and I had a call in my mouth, and I cow call, and I stop the bull, and he stops literally with his vitals, with an aspen tree right in front of the vitals. And I'm just like, and you know,
Mother Nature.
and I have, and here's the thing is I'm drawn. I have no idea how far he is. He's a ways, like a long ways. A long ways.
Yeah.
For like an archer, for a shot, you know, when 30, 40, like you're just like, dude, this is done. I'm like,
arching it.
Yeah. and again, I don't want it to sound like I'm taking a reckless shot, but it was far enough where I'm like, man, this is like towards the bottom of the pin stack here. Right. And so I cow call, he stops behind this tree, and then he kind of like, he starts to bust again. I cow call one more time, and he stops, and he gives me the opportunity. And I literally like,
did he get closer?
No.
He
went another 6 feet. And so, and I just, this is what is so insanely cool about, like, when I think back to all of the shots and kills and all of that stuff, and, you know, and someone asks you, how far was he? And like, what, you know, you ask you details, you literally, like, I personally, I go into this mode where like I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like where was my bubble at on my sight? I have no idea. I mean, you should have an idea of what pin you used,
but
right?
when you're in that moment, you have no clue.
It is, and the recollection of it is, it's just intense. It's one of those, you are literally going off of the thousands of shots that you've done practicing, and I mean, it's funny because like to pull back a 70-pound bow, you know, takes some effort. When you're in that moment in adrenaline, you don't even remember that part. Yeah. It's like this, set, okay, shoot. And so I shot. And so here's where it was far enough that I could, and he's in, so again, recap, it's 9:30. The sun is up. He's in the shadows of the trees. He's a long ways away. I'm shooting a stick, right? I can't tell what the heck just happened. Yeah. Like
you can't even see where the arrow went.
And so I shoot, and he like instantly busts. And I'm like, and so here's what happened. I shoot. I couldn't see a hit on the bull, and I mean, I am like, I just missed. And so let's recap.
Thinking that was your chance, right?
That was the one. And so I'm thinking, dude, I just missed. And so here's what I instantly think. I think to myself, for the last 2 weeks, I've been working my ass off with my hunters, getting them that opportunity to get a shot. And when they miss, you don't get mad. It's nothing to get mad about, but you get like I said, it takes the wind out of your sails. Like, dude, oh man.
All that.
And so then that just happened to me, and I'm like, I am now that person who just missed. And I'm
wait a minute.
I'm effing livid at myself.
It's like not making the line, right?
Yeah, times
like
10.
5 times you missed it.
It's
because I can relate to that.
It's worse. I mean, it is because, you know, because the thing, it's funny you say that about the line, but on the line, you just turn around and go try it again.
Yeah.
On the elk,
there's no retry.
There is not. And like, that was my one time. And I'm just beside myself. And now, you know, and this is that calm moment where the elk are all gone. It was all just madness 15 seconds ago.
And now you just kind of want to sit there.
And now they're gone. So let me back up real quick. So I shot, he busts, but I could see like he didn't he hung around for just a minute. And I'm like, oh, because I cow called right after I shot to try to stop him. And he so he stopped, now he's 100 plus yards away.
Can you see him?
I can see him, but then he trots off and goes down the hill. And I'm just like, you know, and so I'm like doing the walk of shame for, you know, I got my head down. I'm pissed off at myself. You know, I'm feeling a little guilty for being hard on my other hunters who missed. right?
Yeah.
Like in my mind, I was hard on them. I obviously kept the morale good for them, but as a guide, you're like, come on, we need to be better. And then I just effing missed, right? And so it really helped me to have a better approach for that, and so I'm walking towards. So now, I mean, it's
walking
all
in his direction.
Yeah,
right?
well, I'm walking towards where I shot. Like I want to go find my arrow, just make sure I didn't do anything. And I'm walking and head down moping. And I love this part of the story. So I'm walking up to it and I don't see anything. I mean, and it's like, dude, again, then I'm trying to, like, it just happened 10 seconds ago.
Replay it,
yeah, I'm like, where the hell was the elk and where was I? And so, I'm trying to play that and I don't see anything and I'm just trying to look for my arrow and I look, so I walked to where I shot. The elk busted to my left, and so, I'm just kind of walking around in circles, and I look to my left, and like a ways away, and I'm talking like 80 yards away, I see this light, this ray of light, and this is not joking. This is not like podcast filler material to make it sound good, okay? I see this ray of light shining through this crazy canopy of aspen trees into this one little spot in the grass in the aspens. And I see, and like I said, it's 80 yards away. It's a long ways. And I see this 3 foot tall piece of grass that was red. And I'm like, it's fall colors. There's red aspen leaves everywhere, right? But I'm like, I see this blade of grass.
And it clicks in your head.
And it's red on the top. And I'm like, huh, that's weird. So I walked to that blade of grass and it's blood. And I mean, you want to talk about a swing of emotions that is something that, I mean, it goes from like the lowest of lows to not highest of highs, because now this is a different adrenaline. Now this is like,
okay, where did that bull go?
Did I hit him good? Did I hit him bad? Like, what is happening? And so I find that blade of grass, and then so now I'm on the search for blood and not going towards where the bull was going. Now I'm backtracking to see, like, okay, what is there more blood? Is it good blood? And so I don't walk another 10 feet and I see a pretty good pool of blood, and then I walk another 10 feet and I find my arrow, and it's a pass through. And which means the arrow went through the elk, because I had blood all the way through the fletchings on the, and I see this big pool of blood, and I'm like, and I literally out loud, you got to be shitting me, like that. This is like, oh my God, I might have got it done, like, or not even got it done. I'm thinking, okay, now we're to the next step. Now it's like, so this is the part that unfortunately is a part that really is scary for me. The scary part for me, so I see blood, I don't have an elk down, right? The best case scenario, and this has happened several times, you shoot one, you double lung it or heart shot, and literally you watch the elk die right, like literally right there. And that is like, it is the most, it's the biggest emotion, because all of it comes together. It's like this huge collage of pictures and memories in your head of everything worked, right? Training, getting busted, all of the things you did wrong early in the season, and like you're thinking all of these things, and oh my God, it's like this overwhelming feeling of satisfaction that you did it, dude. Great job. You did it. Now, I see the blood, but I don't see the elk. Now so these aren't the emotions I'm feeling right now. Now I'm feeling, did I hit him good enough to harvest this bull the way that I picture, that I need to do for me to feel good about hunting? Hunting.
I could see that being a big emotion and
because
I've
lost bulls, and it doesn't matter if you shoot with a rifle or a bow. It will happen, and it's the worst feeling ever. And so So I do what I always do when I see blood and I sit there for 45 minutes. And it's the longest 45 minutes of your life because you need the animal to lay down.
So you don't go after it.
Yeah. You don't want
That's the wrong thing to do.
It is the wrong thing to do. But it's the thing you want
That's what
to do.
you're thinking.
I mean, you want to
Go find this thing.
You want to go get him.
Mm-hmm.
And so these 45 minutes are the longest. And this is what's really hard. So, right, you want to text your buddies and tell them, hey, get ready, we're packing. But you don't because what if he's not down?
Yeah.
What if he
clotted up and
it's the worst. Okay, so 45 minutes goes by and I'm just anxious, right? I'm a very anxious person anyway, and so I'm like, okay, and I'm also thinking of the past the couple times where I lost a bull, that this same scenario happened. I waited the 45 minutes. I had a blood trail. I stopped at the blood trail. I wait, and then I start following the blood trail. I've had a couple different scenarios. One was I waited too long, and it got hot in the day, and that sun hits that blood. And when the wet blood is on the ground, it's easy to see. When the blood dries up, especially in the fall with all the aspen leaves, it is impossible.
Camouflages itself.
You can't see the blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking to myself, this fine balance, right? I want to be able to see the wet blood, but at the same time, I don't want to wait so long, or I don't want to bust him. I don't want to creep up on him. And so I had a big blood pile, and then I had the trickle of blood. A couple times, I even I'm having to do the circle trying to find the next blood spot. And
this is just as big a part of the hunt is finding them in the beginning.
It is, and it's the worst feeling you have in your gut, when you
not knowing.
Yeah,
and, I could see
when you're
that.
on a blood trail and pretty soon
and the blood dries up.
You're walking and you're like, it was just right there.
Yeah.
Where did it go?
Mm-hmm. And then you're looking up and you're like, you don't see him, you don't see blood, and I'm like, oh thank God, there's one. There's a blood spot, and so then you go another 6 feet, and it's because here's what's happening when I'm following a blood trail is I'm not thinking about oh yeah, this is awesome, it's done. I'm thinking about the 2 times that I've lost a bull. Mm-hmm. That's the emotion that is in me right now.
Yeah.
And I'm so I'm literally praying to God, please, I hope I did enough to do
make it
this,
quick, right?
to do this right,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay, so I wait my 45 minutes. I'm on a blood trail. It's wet, and I'm going super slow. I go slow. I can see blood for a little bit. I stop. I bino up. I see if I can see him bedded down or anything. And so I do this for I'm 30 minutes. And I'm not covering a ton of ground because I'm going really nice and slow. I don't want to bust him. But it is now at the point where he is going further than I want it to be, right? It's I still am on blood, but he should be piled up somewhere. He should be
down here somewhere.
And so I'm getting super nervous right now. And so I go another little bit, and now I'm literally getting to a spot where, so I told you guys I was in the thick trees, and now I'm kind of getting out of the trees, and I can see this big open sagebrush, which big open sagebrush means bye-bye. It's going to be really hard to follow blood. And if you lose the blood through the sagebrush, I mean, you have no idea where he's gone. And so I've got my binos up. I'm looking through the trees. I see this big sagebrush patch, and I literally have to make the call. I'm like, I'm still on blood, but it's not crazy blood. He never stopped. He never stopped. And, that's kind of one of those telltale signs is if he stops and there's this big pool of blood, it's coming. It's coming. It could potentially come, although I've been burned by that twice as well. I saw the big pool of blood, but the big pool of blood was there because he stopped a bed and I busted him. And then the blood clotted up on him, and then I lost him.
Yeah.
So at this point, he's not stopped. I've gone quite a ways, like half mile, like that's a long ways, and I got nothing yet. And so I've got the pit in my, the gut feeling, I'm not in a great place right now mentally. Yeah. And so I had to make the call, like, he's bleeding, he hasn't stopped, I need to let him lay down. And so I made what's one of the hardest calls for me. I backed out.
Really?
I marked it on my phone, the last spot of blood, and I back out, and I go back to the lodge.
I didn't realize that happened.
So I go back to the lodge, and so Kinley, so my family actually, it was really cool. My family came up that night, or the previous night, and so they were hanging out with me, and I went out, and they were at the lodge, and I come back, and so then we're telling the story, and it's such a different story, right? It's not a like high-fiving, exciting kids jumping on you. It's me like
head down a little bit.
I hit him, but he's not down.
He's not down.
And so we do breakfast, and I grab, and so
next day.
No.
Oh,
same day.
Same day.
Yeah, so because I shot him at 9:30, I go back. I do breakfast, and then I'm like, okay, let's go back out. And so I grab, so Sandy, my wife, and my daughter, and then I had a couple buddies up there, and I come out, and you're driving back out to the spot, and you've drugged these people out,
and in your own head, you're like,
in my head, I'm like, I'm so scared and nervous because it's a really big deal for me. I mean, I don't go to just kill, like to shoot something.
Not just to kill something.
I'm trying to harvest something, provide, and I'm not going to shoot just to kill something. I want to have it be as good of an experience as it can be for not only the animal, but for me, and for me to have it be good. I want it to be peaceful. And this isn't peaceful at this time. He's on a run. He hasn't bedded, and he's bleeding. And I hate that. And so anyway, so I go to the last spot. I got everyone behind me, and I'm still creeping. And now, like I told you guys, I was close to this sagebrush opening, and now I am literally 60 yards from the sagebrush, and there's this one last stand of dark timber, like a little patch, like literally, a 100 by 100 patch of dark timber. And I'm like, this is it. If he is not here, he is in the sagebrush, and I am effed.
And in your head, you're probably like, he's
gone.
He's got,
I think he's gone.
You think he's gone?
I think he's gone. I'm walking up to this dark timber praying. And I kind of dip my head through these trees, and I hop over a log, and he's laying right there, right in the dark timber. And it's just like, the rush of emotion of like, or sense of relief. Yeah. It is. And, and so, I'm like, he's down, and the people behind me are coming in, and this is what's so fun at this point. And I haven't even seen what he looked like. Like, it happened so fast. I couldn't bino him. I couldn't range him. Like, did I shoot a dinker?
Yeah, you're trying to replay. What was it?
And that moment when you walk up to an elk that you, like we talked about, I did everything right. It didn't feel like it 5 minutes ago, but I did everything right, and he's laying here, and to touch that animal for the first time.
That's a swing of emotions.
It's awesome. And then I look at the rack, and I'm like,
wait a minute.
Holy shit, he's a 6x7. He's the herd bull. He's the bull that, that is so hard to get.
Yeah.
And
it all came together.
Man. And then to have, my wife there and my daughter there, and to have them, this is the second time my daughter has got to help me break down an animal and process it, and she really truly understands when we cook the steak, like, you didn't go to the store and buy this. Daddy shot this with a bow and arrow, and I got to help get the hide off and get the quarters and carry it out and
means something.
So
and it's something she'll never forget.
She talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
And when we eat the steak, or eat the food, it's just that. You don't just think about eating food, you think about
the whole experience, right?
What happened.
Yeah.
Right?
The whole story.
And so, on the YouTube vid, guys, I'll have Bubba splice in a couple of the pictures. I got some really cool pictures of, Mama holding the hide and Kinley with the knife, helping us break down the animal. And it's just, it's actually my screensaver, my daughter holding a backstrap with the horns in the background. It's I mean, it literally, like, even just me thinking about it and talking about it today with you guys and sharing my story with you guys, it's even if you're not a hunter, and this is why I like having Ryan on this one, is, for me, it's I've told you guys, hunting is the most frustrating, rewarding, humbling experiences that I've ever done. And and snowmobiling is like that for me as well.
Yeah, it can be.
But on the hunting side, I think it's harder. It's even harder. And again, that's what I enjoy about it.
Well, and that's kind of why I brought up that question in the last podcast about, what's your favorite part? Because I think about the times when I've had the luck to harvest a bull. And it is a lot, that moment where, you know that you've set yourself up and you can get the opportunity. But like what you said, when you walk around that tree and you see the bull on the ground, I've cried twice. It's so emotional. And I think aside from setting yourself up, knowing, like, putting it all together, completing the circle, is a really cool feeling, and especially to do it with family. Yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting you say that. I mean, on opening day that morning, it's when it's pitch dark and I got my tent on my back or my backpack and my bow, I get out of the truck and I get on a knee and I pray to God that this is a successful season, from the standpoint of, I don't want to wound an animal. I want to learn, and I want to have some opportunities. And then if everything comes together and I get to harvest one, I get back down on that knee and I thank him for the opportunity to be able to have such an incredible moment in my life, and to share it again. I mean, it doesn't get any better than to be able to share it with my family, and I can't wait to be able to, to do that with my wife, with an archery kill, or my daughter, or my son, and because it's a very special moment, and so I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I know it's not very snowmobile related, but we had a lot of requests when we asked about.
Let's hear about your hunting.
Let's hear about the hunting story, and that's just one of them. And it's exciting for me to talk about it. It's, you guys can see why I like it and how I relate it to snowmobiling, and
there's so many elements. Be prepared, be physically and mentally prepared. Practice, practice, practice.
Don't give up.
Don't give up. Failures, learn from them. Have the right equipment. Know your terrain.
Which you can say those exact things in our world of snowmobiling. And so that's it. That was the 2020 archery bull elk story, and somehow we did it under an hour.
Amazing.
It is amazing. And I know, and actually I really appreciate a lot of you guys have said, quit worrying about the time. We love hearing the story, so I appreciate that. And
we appreciate all your feedback and input and ideas.
Yeah.
We've got a lot.
Yeah, we got a
covering.
lot.
There's a lot
which sets us up for podcast number 22. This is one that I'm really excited about. We're going to be talking about technique of snowmobiling and how to be better. It's something that we do on a daily basis here. It's one thing to do it on the snow, but I know a lot of you guys who don't unfortunately have the opportunity to make it out to our place yet. We're going to do our best to help you with that for this upcoming season, because it's almost time. It is November 7th today, and that means snow is...
We're on first ride season.
I know, it's coming. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. As always, share, tell your buddies about it. Tell them where they can find it. We're on everything now, right, Bubba?
Make sure to subscribe on iTunes if that's what you use. It's a new account, so if you were subscribed prior,
They'll need
resubscribe.
Resubscribe.
Spotify, same account, right?
Spotify, same account.
Yeah. YouTube.
Yeah, share. Keep giving us ideas, and we'll put them in the arsenal.
Awesome. So anyway, enjoy, guys, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks.